Happy Chanukah, everybody. Yesterday, a friend of mine asked me a question about Hanukkah, which I think is quite telling. The customs of Hanukkah seem somewhat anomalous. We're all familiar with the commandment of lighting the menorah. Uh, Typically, it's one candle on each night. In many families, each person lights his or her own menorah. This custom is actually codified in our codes of Jewish law. Here's the passage from the Shulchan Aruch of Rav Yosef Karo and the Ashkenazi custom as it's detailed by Rabbi Moshe Isserlis. So the Shulchan Aruch Rav Yosef Karo writes, how many lights should one kindle? On the first night, he kindles one light, and then from then on, he continues to add one each night until on the last night they are 8. And even if the household members are many, they should not kindle more. Now, the Ramah, Rav Moshe Isserlis, details the Ashkenazi custom, and he says, some say that every one of the household members kindles, and that's based on Maimonides. And such is the widespread custom. Rabbi Moshe Isserlis is testifying about the custom in Ashkenazi countries. And they should take care to place their lights in a unique place so that it will be apparent how many lights they're kindling. Now, what's funny is that the Talmud gives a much more simple and inexpensive way of fulfilling the mitzvah. The Talmud says, our sages taught, the mitzvah of Chanukah is a single candle for each person and his household, and those who are scrupulous, a candle for each and every one, and the scrupulous among the scrupulous, Beit Hillel says the first night he lights one, from here on, going forward, he goes on adding. So it's unusual in that what the Talmud considers appropriate for the scrupulous of the scrupulous, the custom considers appropriate as standard behavior. Since when are we all expected to go above and beyond the call of duty in this way, that all of us behave like the scrupulous of the scrupulous of the Talmud, which I think really gets to the heart of the Hanukkah message. You see, the Talmud relates the story that the Maccabees defeated the Greeks, and when they entered the temple, they found only one flask that had not been defiled, and it was sealed with the seal of the high priest. Now, that flask should have lasted for one day, and instead it lasted for 8 days. Our commentaries point out, though, that this miracle was in many ways superfluous, because by law, if we only have impure oil at hand, we may use that impure oil until new oil can be produced. The Greeks had defiled the oil, but they didn't destroy it. There was plenty of impure oil at hand left by the Greeks, which by law should have been used. So why did they need to rely on that one little flask? Why did they need to rely on a miracle? So, as is the Jewish way, I'd like to answer that question with another question. And that is, why indeed did the Greeks defile the oil and not destroy it? In fact, they never attempted to destroy the temple, as did the Babylonians, or as would the Romans later. They did make 13 breaches in the fence, and they defiled the temple, and they defiled the oil, but they left the structure intact. So it seems that by making breaches in the fences, they were communicating their belief that there is really no separate holy place on earth. All locations are the same, and all religions are useful for social or political purposes, but there should not be a fence to distinguish between Jew and Gentile, between priest and commoner. Similarly, they defiled most of the oil because oil represents wisdom. And they believe that all wisdom, all illumination, is of earthly human origin. They believe perhaps in an ultimate transcendent God, an unmoved mover, a being so perfect and lofty that he's uninterested in our coarse, ever-changing, imperfect world. Being uninterested in us, he does not radiate prophetic wisdom or intervene in our lives in any kind of miraculous way. They mocked our traditional beliefs by leaving one little flask untouched, sealed with the highest seal of the high priest. And that represented in their eyes perhaps the wisdom of God, too rare, too refined to really penetrate and illuminate our world in any practical way. And what they said to us was, yes, light your menorah, but do so with the abundant secular oil we have left for you. Light your menorah with the oil of purely secular earthly wisdom. Light your menorah with the wisdom of Athens. Now, by law, as I mentioned, the Jews could have lit the menorah with that defiled oil, but they went above and beyond the call of duty to light only with the pure oil of the high priest, even though it was so little. And then a miracle happened, because that small oil, which was supposed to be too rarefied to illuminate our world in any real way, that small oil burned for 8 days. There is nothing that can disprove the Greeks' thesis more than a miracle, clear divine intervention. And God did it with the very object that they left as a symbol of the Spirit's inability to influence the physical. They did it with the symbol that they left of God's impotence, but it became a symbol of God's omnipotence. The message is that when we go above the call of duty for God, when we transcend our natures in battles, be they physical or spiritual, then God will in turn transcend the laws of nature for us. That is why we can, by Talmudic law, really fulfill the rabbinic commandment by lighting only one candle on each night. But by force of custom and by force of idealism, we all act like the scrupulous among the scrupulous and light an extra candle every night, and many of us for each member of the household. Chanukah is not so much a commemoration of a historical miracle, therefore. It is much more a call on each of us to perform personal miracles by transcending our own egoism, by transcending our own habits, by transcending our own fears on behalf of causes greater than ourselves. So go light some candles and let the miracles begin.